All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Daniel Stevens Unscripted. I am your host, Daniel Stevens, and I hope everybody has had a fantastic week. I know I have. Um, Looking forward to another weekend of football. Some great games going on out there. The biggest one I'm looking forward to watching is not only the Gamecocks, even though we're having a rough start to the season, but I'm really looking forward to watching the Clemson Miami game. I mean, these are two tough teams right here, and I'm looking forward to seeing that game. As much as I would love to see Miami win, I really hope they do. I think Clemson has won enough, and I think it's time for someone else to shine. And I really hope, I really look for a good game. Whoever wins, wins, but I think it's going to be a great battle, so I'm looking forward to that, hanging out with the family. But today I was wanting to talk to you about how I became a world champion at powerlifting. Um, I get that question a lot. Like, what did you do? How did you start? What made you want to like put yourself through all that? And because for those who know, powerlifting is, and those that don't know, powerlifting is pretty much you're trying to lift as much weight as you possibly can. Like you're basically up there maxing out. You're maxing your body out to get the most points from the amount of weight you're lifting: deadlift, squats, bench press, power curl. I did the power curls and the deadlift. I did bench some, but it's a toll on your body trying to do all that training and stuff. And so I had a few injuries. Who knew? Along the way. So I'll basically by the end of it, I was just doing power curls and deadlifts. Those were my two specialty lifts, and that's what I did to become a world champion. I took those into individual because you got it in groups where you can do like an actual. They call it a powerlift meet or an individual. So I was an individual. I started out as a group, but then I dropped it to the individual just because of injuries and things like that. But the way it works is you go in and you're pretty much like, for example, I was in the 181 at weight class, and so there was guys bench pressing 400 something pounds, 500 pounds, and you get 3 attempts at each lift, and you either fail or you get. So there's 3 light bulbs, and so you got to get at least 2 white lights in order for it to count. If you get 2 red, then the lift doesn't count, and you have to either stay at the same weight or you can still go up depending on your competitor, how much they've lifted. But your max total by your last lift is going to be your total points, and then they just kind of add it up. So whoever has the most points by the end of it takes the grand prize. But because I was individual, it was just based off individual, but it still worked the same way. And really, the way whole thing started was, I was right out of college, and me and my friend Chris, we were personal trainers at a gym called Anytime Fitness, and we were very competitive with each other. And I'm just a competitive person in general. Like, I've turned anything into a competition. If you know me, you know that's true. I will turn anything into a competition. And so we were like, he normally worked the afternoon shift, so in the morning, I was in there doing power cleans and stuff like that. He'd come in, I'm like, yeah, man, I just lifted this. Just kind of trash talking, and then he would turn around and like try to outdo my lifts, and then it just turned into a big deal, and it really it got me like excited, and it was just really fun. And somebody actually asked me like, why don't you do this competitively? Like, why don't you do you compete? Like, well, no, I didn't know you could. And so I actually looked it up, and there was a few power lift meets. Now we didn't do power cleans or anything like that, but deadlifts was one of the biggest things. Still to this day, one of my favorite lifts that I like to do. And so I looked it up and I found one, and I was like, I'm gonna try this out. So I signed up, and the only problem was I didn't have proper coaching. I had no idea what I was doing with these lifts. And so one day I was at my in-laws house, and BJ Littles was there. He's the one. He's a great friend of mine, and he's the one who ended up coaching me. But I was talking to him because he was a personal trainer himself. He's been certified in weightlifting and power training, and pretty much just an all-star trainer. And I was I was just asking him, what do you think I should do? Like, how should I go about training and things like that, just asking advice. But then like it started turning into me meeting him once a week to train. And so the training is different. I mean, he put me through the ringer. I mean, and I asked for it. And but again, I was wanting to be the best at what I was doing, because again, it's just that competitive nature. And so we started training and training and training, and it got more and more intense. And we started getting more involved. Like, he was coaching me more. He was giving me the exercises and the tools and everything. And so, long story short, the first competition came up, and I took first place, and also took the best lift award. And it really got me jazzed up and pumped to want to do more. And of course, when I was there, they would let me know, like, there's a competition coming up here soon if you want to participate. And of course, I said yes. Just because, like, it was just almost like that lifter's high. I was, like, super excited, and I just really wanted to keep going with this. It's just see how far I could go with it. And it was one of those things where, like, it started off as, okay, this is just something just to do, but then it turned into something more. Like, this was just something I just wanted. It's a one-time deal. But then I saw, like, what I was able to do within the months of training, and I was like, I want to keep doing this. So me and BJ went back to the drawing board, and we just kept progressing and progressing and progressing. And the next year, I qualified for nationals, and we were training for nationals. One day we were doing deadlifts, and my hamstring popped. Like, I think I got the bar maybe an inch off the ground, and my hamstring just popped, and I went down like a sack of potatoes. And at that point, it was like, you ever injure yourself so bad, like you almost feel like you're gonna pass out, or you feel very sick or nauseous? This is how I felt. And so we called my wife, we called the doctor, I went to an urgent care, and they examined me and all this stuff, and they pretty much determined I had tore my hamstring in the back, and had recommended I just stop competing all around, which was very upsetting, because I qualified for nationals, and after nationals you can qualify for worlds. And so I had to take it with a grain of salt. And so I missed nationals, and then I just kind of stopped training the way I was. I just kind of went back to regular training a little bit, started rehabbing my legs some, and then I got an email about if you qualify for nationals but able to make it, you could still qualify for worlds. They were doing a local competition, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is a sign, I've got to do it. So I talked to my wife, and I talked to BJ, my coach. And of course, my wife is more protective, and she was like, well, she's supportive, and she was like, I don't want you to get hurt again, but at the same time, I don't want to stop you from doing something you want to do, especially if it means that much to you. And I was like, okay. So I took that as a green light. I signed up, and me and BJ, we went back to the drawing board, and we just did power curl. I didn't do anything, I didn't do deadlifts or squats or anything like that. And so we trained. I only had a month to train, which is not a lot of time to train for a powerlifting competition. I mean, you need at least a solid 3 months of training time. And so we started training, and it got to the point where it was kind of like an overtrain. And so, well, I got to the competition, to the world qualifier, and I did my lifts, and I qualified. And this was back in 2014. Got to worlds. I mean, I'm going up against Brazil, Puerto Rico. I mean, there's all these. I mean, it's just the best talent around the world coming in for this competition. And I know a lot of you know what this feels like when you get in your head too much. You start overthinking, and that's exactly what I did. I was overthinking way too much. I was so nervous that, and I was actually, when I was training, I was actually close to the world record for power curl. Was like 175, 185. I think it was 180. And so I was actually going to go for it, and which was dumb, because, well, not dumb, but it just wasn't the right decision, because first of all, even though I'm not deadlifting or anything, but like the power curl, you got to keep your legs completely stiff, straight. You can't bend your knees. And of course, I still had that injury. And so with that amount of weight, you could still feel that. I could still feel that pulling and tightness in the back of my leg. And for me to try to go for that much weight, coming out of rehab and trying to build my strength back up, really just wasn't the best move. And so at the same time, I was in my head, because I see all these lifters, and it's just nervous. But good nervous turns into positive energy. You get a lot of adrenaline rush doing something like this in any sport. But there's also bad nervous, where you've already got it in your head that you're not going to win. And that's exactly what I had did. So I went up there, I did my first lift, it was successful. I think I started off at like 145, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and go up to 170. Huge mistake. So I jumped up way too much from the beginning. And then I came out, failed my second attempt. So I had one more attempt at this. And the guy ahead of me, who actually ended up winning that year, he did his last lift. I was getting ready. I was getting the mindset. I was chalking up my hands and everything. And all of a sudden, I turn around, and he's on his knee proposing to his girlfriend in the middle of a competition after he just did his lift. I'm sitting there like, really, dude? And I'm like, I can't be that mad. I mean, he just did an awesome lift, and he's getting engaged, but like, really? Like right in the middle of me trying to prepare myself. But I ended up going up for the third attempt and ended up failing. So I still somehow was able to come out with second, which, you know, it's okay. I mean, I guess to me, if it ain't first, just like Ricky Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last. And I was devastated, and I was just like, and I was actually going to retire that year if I had won, or at least had a better day than I did. I really want to go for this again. And he was like, okay, well, let's go for it. But he said, we need to train a little different. We need to do a little smarter. And so we basically went back to the drawing board. And I ended up doing, I think, 4 total competitions that year. There was an all-star competition at the beginning of the year, and then there was a couple in between. There was a national qualifier, then there was nationals, and then there was worlds. And so I had to get through at least 3 of those, but they were spread out like they were supposed to, like every 3 months. So again, I had proper time to recover, proper time to train right. And that's what we did. We just kept on and on and on. And then I wanted to get my leg better enough to where I could start deadlifting again, at least. And so I did more rehab. I did more, mobility training. I was just doing what I had to do to get it better. And so we did the first competition, and I took first place, but something still wasn't right. Like I still was off. I was still feeling that world champion where I screwed up. I was still in my head, and that's the toughest part about this is the mentality of it. Like if you're in your head too much, I mean, you're pretty much setting yourself up to fail. And I had to find a way to get out of it. And so I took first place at the All-Stars, and then went to the national qualifier. Took first there. I still wasn't feeling right. Something was still off. And then went to nationals. Took first there. And then here came worlds. But see, this time it was 2015. This time this worlds felt a little bit different. It's kind of hard to explain. So when I ran track in high school, I would always be nervous. Of course, everybody was. That adrenaline's pumping, you're ready to go. And so, but when I was in the blocks, and the gunman would say, ready, set, and I would there was this feeling I always got that it was like almost like that calm. It was like I went from nervous to just like it switched off. And then that gun would go off, and I mean, and every time that I've had that feeling, I won. And so, we got up there, and the competition started. I was doing very well. I was hitting my lifts. And then I took first in the power curls. I attempted all my lifts. I failed at the last one. Which, I mean, after we looked at the replay, I mean, it was, I don't know, it was tricky. I mean, I don't think my leg bent, but I guess it could have a little bit. So I was a little like, but I still got it. And then deadlifts came, and this is where I was nervous because my leg was still not 100%, but this is the worlds. I mean, it's go all out or go home. And so I did the first lift, I got it. Second lift, got it. So the third lift, I was going for a personal best and for the title. And so before every deadlift, I would sit there. I would kneel down, just kind of look at the bar, and then I would just kind of focus. Because you never want to hesitate when you do a lift. Like, you don't want to go up there and like spend 5 to 10 seconds waiting, because you're losing your energy. You're losing your, not really energy, but you're losing that momentum. And so basically, once you go up to that bar, you're grabbing it and you're lifting it. So I was sitting there. I was so nervous. This is that last one. I was going for a personal best. I was going for the championship, the world title. And I was kneeling there, and I was nervous. But then all of a sudden, I got that same feeling I used to get before every race, where all of a sudden, it was like that calm before the storm. The nerves went away. It was a different feeling. And when I got that, I immediately stood up, went, grabbed that bar, and lifted it up without hesitation. And then that's how I became the world champion. And it was such a great feeling. But I mean, it was a lot of persevering. It was a lot to overcome. But most athletes know this, that it's 80 to 90% mentality and it's 10% strength. I mean, that's all, and agilities and skills. That's really all it is. Because if your mind's not right, you're not going to be able to perform like you should. But I remember it was such an awesome feeling. Like, I mean, of course, it was one of those things where, like, it took me a couple days to realize what I had done, or weeks, I can't remember. But it was such an awesome feeling. And then, of course, I retired after that. And then everybody's just kind of like, well, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? I'm like, chill. I'm going to chill. Give my body time to rest. I mean, my body took a beating for 3 or 4 years. And of course, then I had my friend Josh Miller. He was trying to, you should do some CrossFit competitions. I'm like, no. I mean, and here's the thing with me, I just never know with me what I'm going to be doing from day to day. I mean, I could wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, heck, I'm going to go for CrossFit. I'm going to get back into weightlifting. I'm going to get back into powerlifting. Because what I do now, I mean, I just go to the gym and I do more bodybuilding style training. And so to get back into that mentality of having to lift heavier and things like that, it would take some time. But it's not out of the question. But for the most part, I just don't know if my body can take anymore. I mean, I had so many injuries: back, leg, knee, shoulder, head, shoulders, knees and toes. But yeah, I mean, it was just an awesome experience. I mean, I would recommend anybody who, and not just with powerlifting, but there's something they really want to go after. I mean, go after it. Don't hesitate. If it's something that you got your mindset on, just do it. Don't overthink it. Don't even give yourself a chance to talk yourself out of it. Just go for it, and then you'll have a positive outcome no matter what. But I mean, that's the story of how I became a world champion, and a big thanks to BJ. I mean, if it weren't for BJ, I probably wouldn't be, because the man could, like I said, he would kill me every time. And of course, I would ask for it. I'm like, okay, it's like, don't let up today. Have you ever said something and then immediately regretted it afterwards? That's how this feeling was. Like, I would go in, I'm like feeling good, and then I would tell him, I was like, all right, I'm ready. He was like, all right, here we go. And then immediately starting, I had regrets. But it turned out, it's what I needed. Of course, that's what you got to do. But I appreciate you guys again tuning in to another episode of Daniel Stevens Unscripted. Just make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button down below and liking, commenting, sharing, because again, this is the only way it's going to be successful, again, is if you're continuing to do what you do with the subscribing and liking and comments and sharing. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Again, if there's anything that you would like to see me talk about or do or discuss, just let me know. Just hit it in that comment section. But I hope you guys have a great weekend, and thank you for tuning in.